That's why I said
Hey, I'm going live.
Okay.
So,
so no trailer park much comment.
yeah. No more trailer park comments.
Well, wait, is it okay because I live in one?
Only because you live in a trailer park, it is okay to make comments on one. I think that's how it works. Welcome to Vlog Thursday, episode 168. And that seems like the best intro ever, right? Kyle can comment in if he wants. Anyways, I am live and I am excited to be alive and that FedEx just visited us. So my excitement over FedEx and what is in these boxes. So that's a whole. It's not anything that you guys will find exciting at all. It's just stuff we've been waiting on. FedEx marked us as closed for the pandemic, therefore we could not be marked back as open. They have apparently a method by which they can mark you closed, but not a process that is easy by any measure by which you can be marked open. So that was a thing. Oh, and Brett didn't do a thing. So now Brett's got to do a thing. So Brett, hi, if you're watching, do a thing. There's a message for you, Brett. Anyways, back to reality here. I didn't even grab hot sauce because I just sat down over here and I'm full. We had a big lunch, so I'm not going to eat. And someone really complained that I ate chips and it made them not watch the stream. It was in the comments of the last stream. So welcome everyone that's in here. So I see someone talking about XCP-NG and pfSense and FreeNAS. Awesome. Just send them links to my videos. XCP-NG is a great project. You can't see it, but there's a box, two of them over on the floor right here. Those are my getting started with XCP-NGs. That is something I'm working on right now. Let me open up this as well. Hold on. Come on. So I'm going to pull something else up that you guys will be interested in. I'm going to close all these windows so I can share my screen. That can be closed, and this can come up. This is another project I'm working on. So all this empty space you see right here is a spreadsheet that I'm sharing out that's going to be for doing some UniFi comparisons, because we haven't done one in a little while, and I wanted to take a handful of devices we have in here, so I wanted to bring it up that I was doing this because it's kind of important. I'm going to, and I'm debating about the signal test. This is not, I mean, someone could copy the URL. I did make it public for those that want to see it, but I don't know if I can paste it into the YouTube live stream. But what I'm going to do is I have a Nano HD, ACLR, AC Pro, UAP HD, HDN. It has the maximum number of clients listed out here for them. I'm going to do like a signal test, a 2.4 or 5 gigahertz signal test, and a speed test. Do them in the same room, do them next room. The downside is, by doing all this, I now have quite a few tests to do. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 5. So that's 40 tests to do. Now, this is one of the reasons I'm bringing it up is it's challenging because if I do all these tests, that's 40 tests 40 pieces of information I have to collect and fill in a spreadsheet. And there's always going to be those people that don't think I do enough. And I always laugh about that going, how long it takes to do 40 tests, set this up, not have to adopt, I just have to plug in each one and change it. So it's going to be kind of fun to play and do that. Oh, this is exciting. Who wants to see the governor's notice right now sent to my phone? From the governor's office, the state of Michigan has extended stay-at-home stay until April 30th to save lives. Non-essential travel has been prohibited, but you can still leave for health and safety reasons, groceries, food, outdoor activities, and caring for others. So good news is I'm allowed to leave my house. Bad news is I'm not supposed to leave my house until April 30th, but I only go the couple miles it is to get here. So that's all the breaking news all at once. Back to the UniFi project. That's going to be one of the things I want to talk about is how we're going to do the testing for that because, hey, look, you guys are getting emergency alerts now too. But I have them all set up over here behind me, and you're not.
I need the patch cable.
Okay, well that's fine. They're all set behind me, and I'm gonna break down the testing procedure now. But I'm looking for suggestions on exactly maybe other tests that I want to do. That way, once I do all this, I set it up once. So if someone has a suggestion on how to do that, that just wondering. So, so hopefully that makes a little bit of sense there. My lab server is no longer with us. That's something I wanted to talk about too. That's the hot glue thing. Oh, when am I making more Tesla videos? When the weather gets nicer. Willie, what's the UniFi testing for? I'll bring it up because Willie's here. Let's show you real quick, Willie. I plan to do a test where, you know what, Willie, I will personally message this to you. Hold on, I'm not going to pull Willie's contact information up on the screen for those who don't know, but I got a secret way I can directly message Willie. I'm going to pull up his messages. Willie, I'm going to send you the message. What I want to do is do some UniFi testing and do some comparison of the different products. So, Willie, out of convenience and what I have pulled up on the screen, I just sent you the doc via Facebook. All right. Anyways, make sure that's, hold on. Okay. That's closed. All right. Back to the live stream here. Too many distractions, right? Yeah, setting up labs is a lot of work. Nice to have for sure. Oh, Tom's links on security in Zoom. Yes, I've talked a lot about Zoom because of all the problems and things related to it. Anyways, back to some of the other things in here. The Tesla videos, like I said, when the weather gets nicer. We've had a couple nice days, but it really hasn't been that nice. I have a collection of videos I've done here and there, and I want to do a more in-depth review of it, but I kind of want to do it outside, and it's just not. We randomly had a really nice day yesterday, but it's now cold. It was hailing out today as well. Now, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, you already seen this picture. So let me get it pulled up right here. And this is why my other server's gone. This hot glue job right here, this wonderfully, well, not so wonderfully done hot glue thing that happened was why a server was down for a client. Now, this is a non-managed client. I tweeted about this because I was like, really? Domain controller down because hot glue popped off motherboard. That's just a great way to start a day. Well, not for the client. They didn't think it was great at all. But I'm not laughing at their misfortune. They just had a terrible IT company prior to us. And I don't ever badmouth the previous IT. And the reason I say that, because a lot of times you take over and like, oh, they were idiots is what you hear from the client, or maybe you want to say that yourself. And I never in front of the client badmouth their previous company, even despite hot glue being on the motherboard. And we do see a lot of bad things. It's just not the nature of me to badmouth them. But because right now they're anonymous to you and even who the client is, I can at least joke about it because there's been enough evidence. I mean, we've seen the usual when we took it over of messy cables and things misconfigured. The deeper we dove, the worse the configuration got. And the client also, and this is why I understand their relationship with the previous IT company for doing things in a very poor manner, the client doesn't like parting with their money in order to do things right. We've learned this from working with the client. That's also either, I always like to refer to them as a non-managed client. That's the first step. So the previous IT people like to custom build out of random gaming ASUS motherboards. They're all their systems, and we tried to go through and audit some of their systems and told them they needed backups on some of them, and everything was just kind of half-assed together, and they didn't want to replace any of it because it's working now. So when they got rid of the other IT company, we just solve immediate problems with them, and then they go back to sleep and never take our suggestions to heart, which is fine. That's why they pay a lot whenever there is a problem. And their latest one is the hot glue popping off the motherboard. So I'm going to I did call them the previous IT company morons, but I at some point, when there's hot glue on motherboards, I mean, I'll excuse messy cables a little bit. It's not everybody's forte to make things nice, but the messy cable situation was even worse than that because the messy cables were actually things balanced. They had switches balanced and hung up by wires. It was, yeah, so. Oh, man. So what else we have here? Hoarding data? Yep, hoarding data is great. Documentation's great. For a small business, you need to set up a file server on the cloud that can be accessed remotely. What solution would you set? Either G Suite or Teams. That's my solution for small business. Microsoft Teams or OneDrive, the whole Microsoft Office suite, whatever they're calling it now, because it just went through another name change. The G Suite is my preference. We use G Suite for all of our business here, because it works out really well for us. But for small businesses, and I've consulted with quite a few of them when they go, hey, I want to roll my own solution. It just ends up, unless someone's really going to manage it, any of these self-hosted solutions generally open them up to more vulnerability unless you're really going to take the time to lock it down, manage it, and keep it secure, or put it behind a VPN, which also needs to be updated, locked down, secure. Or you can tell them to sign up with Teams or the whole Microsoft Office suite, and it just works, or the Google suite, it just works, and it's guaranteed delivery, works anywhere, and what you're paying, that fee is pretty reasonable for the amount of services and protection you get with it. So yeah, that's my suggestion for a lot of small businesses. Testing with Jitsi, not really. That's not interesting. I mean, you can load up Jitsi yourself. Hot glue equals moron. Well, I mean, when you're gluing hard drives in, and oh, by the way, that's just the NVMe. The other drives, they didn't use hot glue, so maybe I would have thought more of them if they hot glued the other drives. The other drives were just all laying loose in the case. So that was interesting, too. I don't know what to say about that. They just had so many missteps. Everything's misconfigured. They had firewalls wide open. There's a laundry list of problems that we found with that company. Do you have all your customers ready for LDAP changes later this year? Yes. Synologies aren't bad. We do deploy Synologies. If people say, I want a local file server and I don't want to buy a Windows domain, we do a lot of Synology for that reason. Willie's right on that. Synology's great, but someone does have to make sure they load the updates on it. You can turn them on to automatically do, but there's still some maintenance on there, and properly having it set up to automatically back up to a cloud service. And you can tie a Synology to things like Backblaze, for example, and build a backup service around it. So it's something that can be done. It's just making sure it's set up right. That's all. But Synology just covers the file sharing. It doesn't cover the broader things like managing your email and everything else. By the way, you can also set up things like the Microsoft email or the Google email and then use the Synology to pull it down from the cloud and keep a local copy. So the Synology can be an integrated part of the other solution as part of a bigger solution. You're getting ready to move your email to Synology? I don't know about that, so... Willie's daring. The volume of email we do here and the number of people using it, it would be impractical. We used to host our own email. I got rid of it a number of years ago. It kind of depends on the volume that you're doing and things like that. It just got to be overwhelming for the amount of email that we decided to move. We moved everything to G Suite a number of years ago, but I did, for a little while I was self-hosting some of the email. Is there a problem using Cat 5 ePlugs to terminate Cat 6 cable? It doesn't always fit. That's the biggest one. I mean, if you can jam it in there, maybe, but it's not the ideal situation. And the reality is, the little ends are reasonably cheap. It's for the trouble you may end up and the headache. Is it worth it that you save 25 cents or something? I mean, I don't know. Just buy the right ones, honestly. Oh yeah, smash the like button, please. Have I tested Jump Cloud with FreeNAS? Actually, no, and I haven't done any cloud testing with FreeNAS lately because I've been wanting to use it. I believe the latest one fixes some issues with Wasabi, and I wanted to do some Wasabi stuff, but Wasabi's a bit confusing on how the buckets work, so I've been trying to dive into it because it's really popular, mostly I think because of advertising, not necessarily because it's the next best thing. They don't have the egress fees, but they have transactional fees. So there are still fees, and it adds up quite a bit. And we use Backblaze right now for a lot of things. And we tried looking at Wasabi, and unless they've changed things recently, the other challenge with Wasabi was the way you had to secure the buckets was confusing. It wasn't clear. And obviously, if you're setting any of these cloud storage things up, how many times do you look at a news item, or I've even brought up many of them myself, where I bring up an unsecured bucket, or, recently Zoom was in the news for all these unsecured buckets that people left open. And if you don't understand how to secure the bucket and you're not clear on it, don't use it until you're clear on it. So although I have a demo account with Wasabi, I don't know I'm still playing with it in demo mode because the bucket, there's something not clear about it when my staff looked at it, and I haven't really dug into it. So, and the same thing with Jump Cloud. I haven't used them. So it comes down to like Backblaze has a really easy way to apply security policies to buckets, but that's kind of what it comes down to. Start with, security, and I work my way backwards on there. Price is not the only driving factor. And by the way, Backblaze is really affordable and has ways to secure it. So I can't remember if I've done any videos on Backblaze. Maybe I should, because I do like their service. Datto's a nice set it and forget it appliance. From what I haven't used one. I've just talked to people that use them. They seem to think it's a good, auto magical device. The good and bad about Datto is this really goes to any product. You can say, I like Meraki over UniFi if someone says something like that. Well, yeah, Meraki, once you take all of it, you're paying for all that knowledge that their back end has. Datto's the same way. Do I want to build out a solution where I make the money, or do I want to just get a turnkey appliance like a Datto where I make a small amount of money and Datto makes the money for doing all the engineering? You're paying for Datto's back-end engineering to make their product do what it does. It's like I said, not from personal experience, or at least people I've talked to, Datto makes a solid product. It's just not a cheap product. So it depends on where you want to make money. And it's different business philosophies. And that's where a lot of it comes down to. Does Meraki require less knowledge than UniFi? Oh, hell yeah. Meraki are easier. Someone could make the argument all day that Merakis are easier to set up, but the license fees are substantially more. Well, those license fees do go to the Meraki developers to develop a product that makes it easier to use. So it's business philosophy. You either have the skills and you want to do it yourself, and that's where we make our money, leverage our knowledge to deploy products such as UniFi and other ones to configure these and set them up, versus the other companies that have built auto deployment and you rely on their back end. So they're making money on the product and you mark it up, the set amount to make it work. So it's kind of, it just comes down to what you want to do. And I think that's a good segue into a topic that I got an argument, not an argument. It was polite. Arguing was be too heavy of a word. It was a polite debate from a master service company. The problem I run into, and I was having a conversation with one of my fellow friends in business. He owns a tech company as well, and we had about a 20-minute conversation, kind of related to this topic, where so many tech companies try to get in the middle of everything, mark it all up, and lock it up in a contract and resell it to the client. And phone service is one of the latest ones that it comes up a lot. And we've always set companies up with direct and things like VoIP MS. And we took a company that was, recently an example would have been a company that was paying $600 a month in phone bill, and they pay like $120 a month now by just setting up with a VoIP MS account and direct billing. That's it. That's all we did. We made the change. The other vendor, much less than happy about it. And we have another one. We just gave them a proposal. We looked at the minutes they used and looked at a VoIP MS account for them, and we set the client up with direct billing. Now, we charge our labor to get this configuration deployed and set up. But you're right. We're, as to quote the people and the person I was having a LinkedIn debate with, you're leaving money on the table by not making them sign a 3-year agreement and locking them into you as a vendor so they can't leave you. And I'm like, well, frequently that's why they're even calling us, is already mad at the current vendor for a lock-in type contract, and they didn't like the response times they got, or dealing with them was a pain. And we go, you can just go wholesale on this and pay direct and save a lot of money. And they're like, we can. I'm like, yep. And obviously that cuts me out of the markup, but they usually like us for other reasons, and then we have them as an overall client, so they still spend money with us. And so it's a business philosophy. And me and my friend, who also has a tech company, we both are doing fairly well, and we both have exactly the same philosophy, where you don't try to be in the middle of everything, that you can set clients up with an automatic, with a credit card, direct bill, and life is good. So it kind of, contract only goes to willing to fight in court, but it becomes a pain. And of course, these clients that we've helped switch, they would never, for any reason, even answer the phone for those other companies, no matter what they were trying to sell them. And a lot of these companies, they sold them a phone service. They used to sell managed IT services to them. We took over the managed IT, but when we got in there looking at the phones, we're like, yeah, you're paying double what you could be saving over here. Or in the case of the company that went from like $600 all the way down to like $120 a month, they found out that's how much the MSP was marking up their phone system. I'm like, yeah, They had an on-prem phone system. That was what their SIP markup was. So we just switched SIP providers. That's it. Nothing else. No real secrets here. We switched them to a wholesale SIP provider, and they pay direct and go, why were we paying so much? I'm like, they just made that much money on you. They go, for the last 5 years? I'm like, well, if that's how long you've been paying them, then sure. I don't know. And the world is a lot flatter in the business world. We know the earth isn't flat, but the business world has become much flat because so many of these companies, it's so easy. Before, setting up any type of wholesaler with a SIP account was hard. Now it's 30 seconds of filling out a user account over at VoIP MS or whichever provider you want. But it's so much easier now. So it doesn't take long for business owners that are savvy, even a little bit in technology, which younger companies are savvy. We know the older ones are generally, but not always, less savvy. It's a generalization, which generalizations I try to avoid, but statistically, but a lot of these young companies, and they end up becoming partners with us because they go, wow, these guys just took care of it. They built it all out. They showed me where to go to get everything. They charged me for the knowledge they shared, and I'm going to pay them to manage our systems and other things around us. So we still are providing value. I'm still making recurring revenue for being on top of their systems and managing them. So it's not like we're doing it, but we didn't make an extra $400 a month on their phone system off them. That would be fact. So I did leave money on the table by switching it to them because someone pointed out, well, you could have just saved them $100 more a month. They would have still thought you're a hero, and you could have signed them on a 3-year agreement for the phones, blah, blah, blah. So hopefully that makes sense. It's my little rant about it. I thought about doing a very specific video on that. So yeah, 3CX, that's another one too. I mean, it's different if you're putting a service in the cloud for them. It depends if it's on a the self-hosted free PBX versus Ring Central. I mean, the reality is, if you want, for example, to put a free PBX system, and I'm partial to free PBX, but 3CX, I'm not as familiar with it, but I've heard good things about it, and I know Willie likes GrandStream, so whichever on-prem solution you're looking for, there's a higher upfront cost to do that. There's no doubt. But it doesn't take long to look at the ROI on it before you go, wow, that's quite a bit to start spending it all. Now, if you just have something tiny in the cloud like a free PBX, no problem. But for any of these bigger ones that you need higher hosting fees for, the price jumps up quite a bit. It starts getting a little bit more expensive to have all that. I mean, free PBX in the cloud is probably a relatively cheap one. I'm assuming 3CX is pretty cheap too. I don't know I've not really dove into it, but I know 3CX has license fees that free PBX really doesn't have, but it kind of comes down to how you want things configured. Now, free PBX is, to me, reminds me a little bit of pfSense, where it has a whole lot of menus. There's really nothing that you can't do in free PBX. It's just a matter of whether or not you know where the menu is to do it. So I do like it from a product standpoint. And we have our system hosted on-prem here, and I pay very, very little for our phone system here. Of course, now the risk factor of having a self-hosted system. Self-hosted system means if the power goes out, the internet goes out, whatever, so does our system. It's done. Well, VoIP MS has a really simple system that will, if it detects that your on-prem is done, it can leave voicemails, it can set up and forward. There's different options where you can bounce it somewhere else if we need to. Ours just leaves a voicemail that says to email us, because honestly, we want you to do that anyways. That's usually our preference for it. HA Proxy, Free PBX, and Zulu, I don't know. I haven't got around to it. Just been busy and haven't had a chance to test it. Ian Major, thank you for $35. Thank you for all the videos. Awesome. I do appreciate it. Why no videos on OpenSense? I don't have a use case for that. I love that everyone asks me every live stream, why not OpenSense? I'm like, it's nothing compelling about OpenSense over pfSense. pfSense, HA Proxy, Free PBX, Zulu, Let's Encrypt. Yeah. Yeah, anything more than 2 handsets, and a lot of our phone people we deploy phones in, the majority of them that we've done them. Well, I mean, the one has like 40 phones, so 40 on one. Another one has like 15 people right now, but plan to expand to 30. So they're specking out the system. They know within this year, well, depending on how the world goes crazy. Their goal is to hire that many more people, so they're speccing out a system that's expandable by that much. That's where it starts killing you. If you start looking at something in Ring Central, don't get me wrong, they offer a massive amount of services, et cetera, but when you start looking at their per phone price and you start pricing out 30 people, yeah, you're going to see a pretty substantial bill from that. Oh, I know someone asked me earlier if XCP-NG supports IPv6. I don't know. I've never tested it. I'm going to go with probably not, but I don't know. I don't have a solid answer on that. Their forums is a better place. SWill4103, thank you for the $10 donation. It is greatly appreciated. Every time someone asks about OpenSense, I'm going to do a video called I don't have a use case for that, and I'm just going to do it. And I've also referenced that Willie Howe has a video, OpenSense versus pfSense. Like Willie said, the menu's nice, but feel free to watch it. I mean, I told Willie knows so many people ask about it, so. OpenSense might be compelling soon if Netgate continues. Really? Well, you can make statements that have no, because they make another product, they can't make two products? Oh my gosh, what would happen if they made only one single product? Maybe they have TNSR because, well, when you're doing vector packet at very high-powered cloud systems, you need something that pfSense doesn't exactly scale to. Neither does OpenSense, by the way. So their Tensor system has a completely different use case. It is not necessarily the firewall that you would deploy at home. It is not even for most small businesses. The Tensor system, and I've been learning a little bit more about it. It's for really high-speed routing at like very fast levels, like cloud level, picture large scale infrastructure type routing. So the Tensor system has a use case. It's just a very specific and niche one. And I'm going to eventually work out and do some videos maybe with them, breaking it down. But it's not a competitor or a replacement for pfSense, in case you didn't know. But I've seen people make snide comments like that, which is fine. If you want to make those snide comments, they just don't. The 8.0 to 8.1, the best way to do it is an over as opposed to a yum update. They have an instruction on that. I haven't done a video on that topic on exactly. There's some things you have to do to change to repo, or you just download the 8.1 and you install it over the top of 8 and tell it to do an upgrade install. The advantage of doing it that way is there's a rollback option. And I want to do a video on how to roll it forward, roll it back if there's something that goes wrong. Because if you just do the in-place upgrade and something goes wrong, there's not a way to roll it back. And I've not done a rollback video either. I've actually never had to do a rollback on the system. So, but I want to do a video on that topic. So, and also Vates, the developer of this, plans to do an interview with me. I'm thrilled with their product, and I just got to follow up and nail down a time to do a remote interview. Press that like button. Yes, thank you very much. Almost 300 of you now. Woo! Kingston, Jamaica. Is it warm there? It's not warm here. That seems like a warmer place. Do you work with any Cisco equipment? Not much. Occasionally. We pull more of it out than we put in, so it's not an all the time thing. So XCP does support IPv6, UI doesn't. That's interesting, Sam. I did not know that. So according to Sam Sheridan, that's true. Let's see. I need help with pfSense. My forums is where you get help with pfSense. Yeah, the XCP-NG update with USB works good. A little warm. Yeah, it's like 47 here. It's not warm at all. Any insider news? I don't get insider news from the folks over there. And if I did, I couldn't share it, because if they actually were to give me insider news, it'd be under NDA, so I can't really do that. Let's see. So, anyways, back to what else did I want to talk about? The UniFi testing, the business talk, the project process. Project process. I'm going backwards. I'm looking at it because I think I talked everything in reverse now, because you talked about the UniFi testing first and things like that. So, the project planning and testing phase, I was trying to figure out how to do a video on that particular set. topic. But over there in the other room, and I was, I don't know if I was kind of working on a video for it. Let me actually pull up what I had so I can show you. I didn't have it. I was so busy today doing everything else. I didn't have time to do the things I wanted. So, but I have the video. Go, computer, go.
You're the person on YouTube.
So we'll switch over to this. Hey, look, it's me looking at me, talking about me. As you can see here, there's one of the projects set up. Now, when we set up and deploy these projects, and like I said, it was me kind of talking through a little bit of it, and I don't know if I was concise enough. And sometimes I do film things and don't even release them because I don't think they're concise, and I redo them again until they are. It started like the first time I shoot a video, it might be 20 minutes. I'll just rerun the video in my head again and say, hey, that's too much. Anyways, the projects that come in. So someone, and I'm always trying to navigate this as politely as possible, but the number of people that choose not to fill out our contact form, send a direct email to one of us here, and just get upset that we would actually charge to review their 7 pages PDF that they attach to their network to give them an estimate on how much to redo and re-secure it. That it bothers me a bit, but it's always like I don't understand. Someone even reached out to me on Twitter, and they didn't. Well, they sent me a message, and I sent them a message back that, look, we charge for our time. And the person who titled himself as a C-level executive for a small business, which weird way they worded that, but whatever. If you're another business, you have to understand we're a business, and you typing out a long list of Q&A for us is a consulting because you wanted to know suggestions on what parts to use for your build out of your IT infrastructure, like which servers to use and things like that. I'm like, well, that's something we do. We will consult with you. Well, I thought you would just tell me. I watched all your videos, and but that's kind of the beginning of the process. So when I talk about these projects and how they come through, we didn't just sell them the project. We first sold them a service. We sold them the design of the project. And we always start there because reality is, guess what? You can easily figure out how much this costs. So if I design an entire layout for you and tell you what all devices to use, and you don't buy the devices from me because you can figure out how much it costs, then I just spend a lot of time designing a project for you and I get nothing in return. So we always charge for the design, and then we charge if you want to buy the parts from us. Yes, there's a markup if you want to have everything pre-set up, programmed, and boxed up and configured beforehand. So I mean, it really comes down to the way you want to handle it. Like, it does cost money step of the way, but we break the process down. I'm trying to figure out like the easiest way. So I'm trying to filter down the people that contact us so we can, take more action on it. And it's one of the reasons we have the forum. The forum answers most of the questions people have about our projects right off the bat. How much do you charge for them? I don't even need to say the price. You can go to our website. There's a Hire Us button at the top, like I say at the beginning of every video I do, and that's where we start on there. So, yeah, they do get upset when you say you have to charge. Willie knows exactly. Yeah, Willie's dealing with the same thing I am, and me and Willie have talked about this. Me and Chris from Crosstalk have talked about this. This is, we've all chatted with each other, and this is just a common problem we run into, where people get upset at the fact that we're charging for our design services, charging for our time to review all that. So, yeah. Am I going to do some more Dell R630 projects? Right now, it's actually my server, so it's kind of a project unto itself because it's up and running. Actually, what I do have is more servers that I'm waiting for on order. We're going to work out with Tech Supply Direct. I've been talking to them, and we're going to work out some reviews. So they're actually going to send me some of the higher end stuff, and I'm going to review it and give you guys an overview, talk about some projects with it, and send it out. As far as like the 630 itself, it's like literally, a running server that we're using for our equipment. So that's how that's where I don't know if I can really, I don't know what other projects I would do with it. Like I did the speed demo, I did how we set it up. I'm going to be doing some new videos on how to load XCP-ng and how to get started with it. So I won't be doing it on that one because I'll have to take it out of production to do that. So, but back to some of the projects though, the top to bottom, I'm trying to figure out a way that would be interesting for me to do a video about it. And that's what I was doing this morning, was kind of doing a video, but I never published it, of just walking through those steps. Like when people found out that we assign public IPs internally, and I did a video on that specific aspect of it, in order to build a VPN so we can deploy, and how, the question comes up, all right, we have a multi-site-to-site VPN, we want to replace all the firewalls at the same time. Well, how do you build that ahead of time and have it all pre-configured so when you deploy it, it's just a drop-in plugin, and I covered that. Well, that scales out. We've actually built, for some bigger companies, we've built out their whole network right in this building, boxed it up and shipped it. All their switches, all their access points, and I mean, we've done some with, like the warehouse one I did a follow-up video on. I mean, I had 80 or so access points in it. That's just another example. All the switching, everything else. Then there's the planning and design that goes with it of where all the switches are. We're doing a much bigger project for that same client right now. It's ongoing. It's not quite finished. I'll probably do a video once that one gets finished. But, there's a lot of coordinating that goes in between. The other side of that, people say, well, how do you manage all this? I'm like, just put some spreadsheets together. It's really not that hard. People overthink how complicated it is. And Steve will answer that question. Hey, come over here. How complicated is it to do the project management on some of these projects? Spreadsheet, right?
Like, for what kind of project? I missed what you were talking about.
Like the project sitting over there. I mean, literally, we can just do a spreadsheet or like.
Oh, he put a really nice chart together with his whole network diagram, VLANs. He did go a little overkill with the VLANs, though. He had 10 different VLANs, outside cameras, that's a VLAN. Inside cameras, that's a VLAN. I'm like, we're just going to make one called security devices.
Yeah.
And you can put your locks and your cameras and everything on there.
But a lot of the planning is everyone's looking for some major project planning software to do this. And I'm like, they're overthinking it. A
lot of people just overthink it in general. They're like, well, we've had the people, well, I need my garage door opener to go out over a VPN.
Oh, that's
why?
But when you're putting these together, and it's the same thing. Like today, we had a project where we audited our Screen Connect sessions. Yeah. We just put together spreadsheets.
Google Sheets, man, it's your best friend.
Google Sheets, your best friend. You share it between there. It's just like the I was showing the NES. It's just like when I put this together.
It's a spreadsheet.
It's a spreadsheet. This will be a project, and if you want to do subjective testing here, this could easily be changed out to locations. You put some data in here. I share it with a few people that are going to coordinate with me on it. In a forum post today, someone says, how do you test roaming? I'm not having trouble with UniFi roaming. How do you test it? I don't know. You turn your phone on and a laptop, and you walk from area to area and see if it connects, right?
That's it, yeah.
And if we wanted to document signal strength, you would do something like this. You just put the areas in a spreadsheet. You'd have it up on the laptop you're using to do the signal testing, and you'd just fill out the spreadsheet kind of as you check locations. That's
there are nice programs for it, though, that do the mapping and that.
Yeah, if you're doing the mapping, that's a little different when you want to do that, but people overthink it. That's the biggest thing.
The mapping thing would be nice. If you're doing an already installed one, I would look at some of the tools for mapping that you can actually put your building plan on. And you just mark where you are, and it actually looks at your laptop, says, you have this level of signal, therefore, and it'll do all the triangulation in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just keeping it simple. That's all I was kind of pointing out.
I use a lot of I do almost everything in spreadsheets. You add colors to it, you get calculations in there, you're good to go.
Not just colors. We use all the formulas. If you use all the formulas, you can actually have things switch colors back and forth kind of as you're going. So as you get something done, you can auto tell it to alternate the colors around. You can tell it to fill out different things. And if you get more in depth, you can do even more than that. So it's you can really get in depth with it. Matter of fact, something here, someone might find this kind of fun. Let me pull this up. I don't think I've showed this before in here. Oh, here we go. So this right here, if you're not familiar, if you want to get good at Google Sheets, if you want to get really good at Google Sheets and do some advanced stuff, this has been around for years, literally years that I've had some of these spreadsheets. I wonder when the first time I made this sheet was. Does it even tell you? If I view the version, see version history, when did I create this one? 2014. This sheet is 6 years old. 6 years ago, I started this sheet. Now, what is this sheet? So this is a live stock portfolio tracker. You can put in any stock in here, and I can tell you right now, Tesla's trading at $573. What is UBN is UniFi's stock ticker? So hold on, let me pull theirs up real quick. what are they?
Because she can still log into her Google account, she can theoretically do it on the desktop or computer.
That's not the right company. UBNT stock price. Ubiquity Inc. There we go. What is their stock ticker? I follow them. Oh, UI. There we go. So we'll put that in there. Get this over here. Back to this. Doop. All right. So if we looked at them, they're just UI. There we go. And I just pulled their current stock price, PE ratio, 52-week high, 52-week low. It recharted it right here. I can see what's ups and downs. And, of course, you can see their market caps and everything else. And all this is just live spreadsheets. This is what I'm saying. When you get into doing some of these spreadsheets, you get a little bit more complicated. You can do so much more with them that they're, you know, the scale and scope of my friend's company using the Google Dynamics and using the Google Sheet thing is super impressive. Like, it's not, I don't know, people, I guess software does make some things easy, but it's really not that hard to learn some of the spreadsheets and get some of this stuff done. And of course, instantly I could have shared that spreadsheet with any of you and you guys could all have the stock portfolio tracker. If everyone wants me to do a video on that, let me know because it's kind of fun. Ooh, colors, yes. Someone said Trello. Trello is pretty cool as well. But there's, so let's see. How do I Linux? You can teach me for free. Oh, just got here. What I missed? You missed a lot if you just got here. Oh, someone said provide Steve with a child seat. There we go. So, make a video on fancy spreadsheets, baby. You know what? I wonder if I have another one. I think I have talked about it. It's the, where is it at? Is it the MSP sheet? Is it in here? See, is it this one? I don't think. Nope, that's not. This one's broken. I have to find the right one. That's the master. Where's the other one? Hold on. You know, doing it live is so much more fun. Right? This is actually a public one. And what this is there's a long instruction on how to work this sheet. What this does is pull information from all these other sheets. So if you're an MSP, for example, and you want to put on, you know, your options for how you're doing things, you build out your users, your option types, your PC types. So each one of these represent each one of your managed services and costing, how much you're charging for your, you know, backup, disaster recovery, site, VoIP. You fill out all your costs based on everything else here, and then it builds out these templates that it does have a reminder to read the fine manual, but then you can just put in calculations for how many of each type you have, servers, VM, and automatically adjust totals, let you know what your margins are. If you want to have complex, difficult factors, labor costs per hour, $35, that's funny, things like that. So these are, and I can drop this one in there. This is I believe this sheet is public. Wait, I don't know, is this one? You can find this. It literally, look for the name, MSP Margin Calculator for Discord. And you can find this posted in Reddit, our MSP, and a couple other places that you can get. I don't know that this is the right or latest copy or not a broken copy. But either way, you can get really fancy with spreadsheets to get a lot done. And it's one of the reasons we don't dive into some of the other software, because this is just so easy to do and make it work. Is there any business idea, any particular services you're looking for during the crisis? I don't know if that's a question or a spammer. I can't tell. Sync thing on there. That's definitely a topic I'm going to dive into. That was a video I was going to do this morning before another thing broke, and then a thing happened, and then I got busy. Must be Microsoft Spreadsheets? No. Microsoft Spreadsheets don't do all that. Microsoft spreadsheets are playing catch up with what Google's been able to do for 6 years. Google, I don't know if you know this, but Google Spreadsheets has the ability to pull full real-time data. Back before I had YouTube, I did a lot of public speaking events, including training on G Suite for people. Google actually has the ability to pull public data in real time and apply calculations to it and fill it all in a spreadsheet. Before they shut it down, I used to use it to massively index Twitter before Twitter shut down their API and Google started putting API restrictions on it that you had to pay. In the early days, it was the Wild West, and you could actually tell the spreadsheet to import Twitter. I used to do kind of fun videos on how all the language on the back end worked. It was a lot of fun. How much do you feel Sheets is missing from Excel? I feel the opposite. When I feel Excel, because of the advanced functions we use in G Suite, I feel though Excel is missing so many features that G Suite has. I mean, one day Excel might catch up to it, but it's been 6 years. And to my knowledge, and someone correct me if I'm wrong because I don't use Excel on a regular, can you do per cell permissions, per user, per cell permissions on a shared online application or a shared online spreadsheet? You can drill down, and we help the company do their payroll calculations using spreadsheets from G Suite that could be accessed on a phone for people to enter their hours. And we learned through this process and setting it up, this is a number of years ago, we could even drill down the permissions of read and write permissions on a per cell basis, per user, per group. So yeah, that's you can really dive in deep. I mean, if you get good, and I've been using it obviously for longer than 2014 is when I made the spreadsheet one with the stock prices in it. That's from 2014 from a talk I did at Walsh College, which is a local college here, on how they could better use G Suite. I was speaking in a college auditorium. LibreOffice doesn't have all the online real-time polling stuff. I know they're working on an online version. I don't think they're there yet, though. Let's see. Can email SolarWinds and take control in Debian? No, SolarWinds, they can't do that. Not going to happen. Let me close that. Any alternative to G Suite that are good, or is G Suite the best option? We're using G Suite because I think it's the best option. Do I know a free alternative to Microsoft Projects? I haven't used Microsoft Projects, so no, I don't know. Yeah, and I don't trust SolarWinds to fix anything on Linux. What Frax said there is very correct. I've never really tied in with SAP. I don't do any SAP work, so I can't answer that question. I'm not the person for that. Fog. I gave up on Fog Project years ago. I hear it's a good thing for imaging computers, but with the latest version of Windows, I don't really feel the need to image computers with Fog anymore. That's why we kind of gave up on it. We just don't need it anymore. We don't have a use case for it. So, yeah. No, I've never found a decent directory system. So, it's, Azure AD is pretty popular for, for setting up any of the management of accounts and things like that. Or, if you are using OAuth and G Suite, you can use single sign-on with G Suite and federate all your stuff through that. That's actually a lot of things. And I know a lot of companies, including mine, we use G Suite for things. So it happens to work rather well. RMM is SolarWinds, and ticketing is email. We don't have a PSA. Check out JumpCloud. Yeah, I've heard of JumpCloud. The problem I run into is any of those, when you dive into any of those hosting the services and hosting the desktops in the cloud, is finding clients that can afford it. Not all of them can. It is pretty pricey. It comes down to that same ROI we talked about earlier on the phone systems of, yeah, cool, run all your servers in the cloud and all of your desktops in the cloud. But by the way, you still got to manage the workstations, and you still got to get connectivity to it, and you still got to protect these endpoints, because if they hack the endpoint that is connected to the cloud resource gets hacked. So it's not just about putting cloud resources on there. You have to also filter the endpoints that connect to those cloud resources and make sure that they haven't been compromised. So now you just have more complexity and more cost. And I don't know what the goal was in the beginning. Was it just to make it easier for backups? Imaging computers is easy, and it's cheaper to image a computer than it is to set up and build a whole cloud infrastructure around it for most companies. So. I hear people asking like Univention corporate server. It's brought up in this channel almost as much as PF Senses or OpenSense is, but we've had compatibility issues. If you have some software that specifically looks for it, if you're just trying to get the users to connect and share files, sure, but as soon as you start doing other programs that rely on Active Directory objects, you can maybe have problems, maybe you don't. Honestly, especially for small businesses, the Windows Essential license is so cheap to get a server up and running. You hardly save them any money by going to a Linux server. And I'm a Linux fanboy telling you that. So says on the website, Take Control supports Debian Stretch. No, I don't expect it to work at all. Here's a tick. Take a look at Java Cloud. I don't know why I would look at third-party ones unless there's a really compelling use case for them. Every random company that comes up with another cloud service, even Wasabi, which is backed by who is that? Wasabi was originally, what's the other big backup company? Carbonite. Same CEO and things like that. It's a well-funded company, but even then we're still nervous because, anytime you have a startup and you want to pull your data there, what if they have an outage? What if they have problems? What if they have startup problems? What if they run out of funding and you've built structure around it and all of a sudden you have to scramble to find a plan B? There's a lot of little things that you have to think about when you're looking at all those different ones. So. Yeah, there are some companies that are 100% cloud. So, I mean, it's not that we don't have any of those. They're more niched use cases. It's not for everybody. It's about figuring out what fits for each scenario and each client that we're working on. That's the biggest point that a lot of people miss is like we're not trying to cookie cutter everything at all. We're trying to give the best solutions based on the needs of the client. So even when I reply, if you look at my replies on the forums, I sometimes just ask the person, because they'll ask something weird and I roll it backwards. I'm like, what's your goal? What are you trying to get to? Because you've now asked a question that I'm not sure what you're trying to do. And if you tell me what you're trying to do, I can probably guide you through an even better way to do it. So that's a really important part or aspect of any of the solutions is first, what's the goal? Start at the goal, start at where you want to be. This is actually one of the models you need to think about when you're business planning. What's your retirement plan? Why would you ask that at first startup? Well, if you don't have a retirement plan, how do you plan to get there? Because you kind of have to build it backwards. You have to figure out what the product should look like. What does your business look like? What's the end goal? What does your business look like when you retire? All right, let's work it backwards. How do you get there? Well, first you need to do this and this and this, and then you get all the way to the beginning of it and start. This is like any project, you look at it in that perspective, and it makes life a whole lot easier to manage. What else are you hearing? Happy T found out the cloud is just another computer. So, yeah, you got to figure out what they're trying to solve, because sometimes people come at you with solutions, and this is very true in my forum posts. They come at me with a solution that they think, and I'm like, why are you trying to write a rule that way in a firewall? What are you, they usually have questions about what is an SD-WAN product or a load balancing issue. And I have to roll it backwards because I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to achieve. Someone, and this is public in my discussion forum, someone was asking about and I didn't understand because it's so confusing the way they asked the question. Like, well, how do I get OpenVPN to only work on 443? I'm like, well, put it on port 443. Like, and it's working backwards towards the goal, and I'm still not clear on exactly what that is. What's my perspective on Teams? If you're using the Office 365, then use Teams. So if you're on the Microsoft platform, Teams is what you're going to be using. why use a third party if you already have Teams integrated? My perspective on whether or not I would use it, we have a lot of clients using it. My perspective is we use G Suite. I like that better. So I don't know what other perspective people want on Teams. What else was I going to ramble on about here? Project process. I've done a video on that, and this has come up recently because a lot of IT companies were scrambling, trying to figure out how to do the work remotely with everything on lockdown. And it's funny, I shared it out, and it didn't get many views and seems to be getting more views now. I have a video that breaks down exactly how we book things. The software we use, which is You Can Book Me, the whole flow of how that comes in. So it starts at you can hire us on our website. We vet all of them, by the way. Everything goes, and if you didn't guess, if you go over to our website, and let me pull that up real quick. Go over here. And if you go to the Hire Us here, it pulls up this page. And if you couldn't guess it, this is never submit password through Google Forms. Yeah, don't put your password in here. It's got a reminder on it, This is how we, this form was created inside of Lawrence Technology. This form was created inside of Lawrence Technology Services. This is really simply a form that we use to collect that goes into a spreadsheet. Yeah, same thing, a whole spreadsheet thing. This is where we collect the client information that you fill out, and then from there, we decide which technician is going to email you, whether or not they have contacted you, and all of us are logged in looking at this particular spreadsheet, and then we send emails and start the booking process, and then we each have booking links that we send. And I have a video where I break all this down, and that's kind of like the beginning of those processes for how people hire us and things like that. We've been delivering our services online for a long time, so this is not really a... there wasn't a major change in our business model for at least all the online stuff that we've been doing. What's up with how they got hacked? We're still working out. Xavier's been pretty busy. He's preoccupied with a few things he's got going on in his life right now, so we've been taking a break from that. Meet, Hangouts, the G Suite equivalent of Teams. Yes, there's Google Chat and there is Google Hangouts. Those are the equivalents. So you have a chat application, and then you have the meet.google.com, which is the G Suite version of Hangouts. So yes. Yeah, VPN rough since everyone working from home. Yes. If you're renovating a house, just buy some Cat 6. What's my recommendation in open source VPN? I would say my open source VPN recommendation is run it in pfSense. I guess that's, I don't know your question, but run it in pfSense with OpenVPN. How's that? Also, fiber in the home, 100%. I wouldn't put fiber in the walls at home. That seems, it's probably not necessary at all. Cat 6 is fine. I don't see a problem using Cat 6 in a house. If they're longer runs, use Cat 6A because you want it to have 10 gigs. So Cat 6 will do 10 gigs despite people who argue with me on YouTube, and despite the fact that I literally had the guy who writes the standards from the IEEE and IA42 do an interview, and people continue to tell, people get really opinionated on you're wrong and like to tell people they're wrong on the internet, even though I can provide proof I'm not. Cat 6 will do 10 gig. I think it's up to, and this is where I might be wrong, I think it's only like 30 feet. It's a short distance for Cat 6. Cat 6A, the full length of it is 30 feet or 30 meters. But either way, you can look it up. There's charts on the internets. The Wikipedia charts are actually accurate, the last time I checked them. Any new pfSense videos? Yeah, more pfSense videos are coming, but before I get to them is going to be XCP-NG videos, which is why I have so much stuff. Like this. Oh, and someone asked about DDR5. Don't ask Tom about hardware. My staff makes fun of me because I'm not a hardware person. I'm going to be doing some raw getting started with the new version of pfSense, so I'm going to be popping some network cards in here and doing. Wow, that's old. Where did that come from? I don't know. That's a PCI. Even I know that's old. But anyways, I'll be doing some getting started with PF Sense videos. So there is at least that coming. That's what this board is laying over here for. There's going to be a getting started with XCPNG because my server got commandeered for parts to fix that person with the glued in for the glued in things there. So that's it. You know, that's a thing. So I'm going to be replacing my server, and it seems like a good opportunity to you know, go through and walk through how to set up and how to build your home lab. So it's actually going to be a full how to build your home lab video when I do it. I want to walk through. It's going to be a long video, so I got to take my time. If the weather's not nice, this Saturday might be the time I do it. I'll be doing this whole step-by-step entire process of getting the whole thing set up. So 10 gig fiber on the rack. Yeah, I mean, if you want, it's not that I'm saying not to use it, but it's usually not necessary. It's kind of a thing. OpenVPN until WireGuard becomes more available. So WireGuard's a cool project, but until it's more available, then I wouldn't say that it's a replacement just yet for OpenVPN. It's getting there. It's you know, they're going through some code audits and everything else. So 3Com 905B. I don't know where here. What is this one? This isn't a 3Com. It doesn't say 3Com anywhere on it, so I don't think it is. I don't know what this one is. What chip is that? 88E8001 chip, but it doesn't have a. It doesn't say 3Com Intel. It doesn't even say Broadcom. I have no idea what this is on the desk. So. But is this one, or was it this one you were asking? This is a Broadcom here. So if that's what you're asking about, was a card in here. Yeah, 3C905Xs. There you go. Most challenging technical issue. No overcome. I don't know. That's not. I'd have to really think about that. Off the cuff, I don't know. I don't use Packet Tracer or GNS, so take your pick. Whichever one you want to use, whichever one makes you happy is the one you should use. I don't use either one. Does an AC Pro work properly outside? We've used different UniFis for outdoor projects. They've always worked really well. Yeah, most technically challenging is sometimes just getting people connected remotely. Having conversations with people, trying to solve a technical problem. The conversation with them is sometimes far more complicated than that. My days in corporate, you know, I had all kinds of fun technical projects I worked on. So I don't know if any of them are really worthy of a story. I don't know. I guess it depends on how I write them up. That's kind of what I did, was problem solve and did big data analytics. I was, as a technology officer for the chief tech, or what do you want to call me? I was the head guy in charge of all that. Got one of these old cards here. I like how the old ones look different. We got features. There we go. So I got this. And the other card that you guys were looking at was this one. This is the PCI card you were looking at for. So I don't know. I think I can zoom in further if anyone's in it. Whoops, that's not zoom. Here we go. Now it's got to stop shaking. Too far. Back up. There we go. Yeah, I don't know what chip that is on there. So, that's how. High-end home network, dual high-speed connections, PF Sense. Oh, PF Sense all day. Here's my problem with the UniFi Dream Machine. I don't have a dislike for it, but it's as soon as you want advanced features, and we almost got to take a look at our hiring part of our website and start start putting on there, like, I'm not going to help you with your problem with your USG. What happens is people even send us, when they fill out the forms and forum links, going, hey, this guy in this forum says I can SSH in and make this happen with my USG. And I'm like, nope, if it's not supported by UniFi officially, I'm not going to do it. And even then, frequently people ask for things that just can't be done with the UniFi. So I think the UniFi Dream Machine is awesome at my daughter's house, where she doesn't have any extra things she's doing. She just wants the internet to work. Therefore, it is a great device for her to use. It is not an advanced device for people who want all kinds of special routing and features and everything else. That's where, I mean, they're a basic router. I consider them really a solid product for home users, but not for people who go, I want to do advanced things. I assume most of you that are watching this is because you want to do more advanced things with your firewall. Therefore, you probably should look at something that has all those advanced features, and you can find that in this $199 package. I think that's what these are still going for. That's why we have so many of them here, is configuring and setting these up for people. Oh, dropped the leg, dropped the foot, pulled it out. Let me go grab that or I'll lose it. Anyways, so these little Netgate boxes, and I've reviewed this one before, the SG 1100 is outstanding for the price and just gets the job done. It's if you're looking for a turnkey solution that has a lot of advanced features. But don't get me wrong, the UniFi Dream Machine, if you go, I don't care about advanced features, I just need internet to work, well, we've done a demo on the Dream Machine. It's a solid functioning product, and it works quite well, so you can definitely use it and solve the problem with it. Just don't ask for advanced things on it. Do you provide any services your customers at your house and stack? How do you provide redundancy? We don't host in our stack it physically in the building, with the exception of UniFi, because if the UniFi goes down, it doesn't take their internet down. So other than hosting the UniFi system, we don't host anything critical for clients within our building. Now, setting up in a cloud server is different, but physically in our building, we don't do any hosting of critical infrastructure. No, the 1100 will not do traffic shaping at gigabit. You need to step up a bit. You know, MikroTik is one of those things. If you want to take the time to learn it, it does all kinds of things. You got to spend the time learning it and learning it from the command line to unlock the power of it. So do you want to take the time to learn the UniFi command line and read through all their documentation and figure out how to configure things? Or do you just want to use pfSense that not only me, but Netgate has created a lot of videos on? And of course, Netgate's documentation is top notch. And there's a ton of community around it to help you out with problems. So your better luck is going to be in lesser learning curve is with pfSense. It's not that it can't be done with MikroTik. It's just done at the expense of, do you take the time to do it? I know people that have, there are people who are really good at MikroTik and have large deployments that they work very well with on it, and awesome for them. But if you don't want to take the time to learn it, then, well, it's probably not for you. How often do you take FreeNAS snapshots? Depends on the data. It all depends on how, everything comes down to what's the data on there, what's the longest I could live without the data. That's how long the snapshots are on it. Some data doesn't get snapshot because it doesn't need to, because it just gets redundantly copied to another machine. Well, it snapshots it to copy it, so technically it does get at least a daily snapshot for a daily backup. My videos would be an example of that, but not all data needs to have snapshots on it, so it's not really a big deal. I leave the defaults at scrub, which I think are weekly. Learning Cisco is enough. Well, I mean, why not? Hey, yes, we got all of them today. We got MikroTik, OpenSense, and all of them. That is, yes, I got all of them at the same time. That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, it kind of, like I said, it comes down to use case, the general use case. But if you have specific data sets, I mean, we have a client we do some consulting with. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was set to, but I think they have 1.5 petabytes of data. And we consulted with another person who also has they're building a server to even bigger that's going to house that much data. So I mean, it really comes down to the data sets you have and things like that. So, do you have a product like to protect your NAS from ransomware? Do you need something, Steve?
No, I'm just need to make.
Can you do me a really big favor?
What's up?
Just give me water.
Yeah. Want ice?
No, just fill it up. Thank you, though. There's not really, protecting your NAS from ransomware isn't really a concern. You protect the endpoints because the NAS itself, provided you didn't publicly expose it, is not where the ransomware starts. The ransomware is going to start at the endpoint and move its way into the NAS. In an example, I've got a video called Free NAS and Combating Ransomware. What I've done is I've created data snapshots, and those, thank you, sir. Those snapshots are what you can do to roll back. Now, part of that, me and Kyle from Huntress just did a video on this topic, and we were talking about this because this comes up, and it's not a vendor problem, but Datto, so I mentioned earlier, they've been in the limelight for this, and not because of Datto's fault, except for the fact that I don't think Datto was pushing hard enough for some of these deployments, and it's not Datto's fault, but some IT people would just tie everything together with the Datto, and if they get the credentials compromised, they just wipe the NAS and all the backups and delete them all, and then they do the ransomware deployment.
Single sign-on scary.
Yeah, single sign-on is scary. So if you set these up, part of it is defense in depth. Don't use the same admin credentials for your Active Directory as you did for your NAS. If you do, if they pop your Active Directory credentials, they can pivot over to your NAS, use the same credentials to delete all your backups. If the NAS is separate from them, you can build this out so you have a lockdown spot where someone else doesn't have the password. You didn't have it in some spreadsheet that was accessible where they got all the other passwords. So then you can log into the NAS and start rolling it back. For an example, a free NAS, you can just roll back the snapshots to the previous version. Azure Immutable Blobs, there's another option as well if you want to have offsite backups. The huge challenge with offsite backups. And this is something that you need to really play out. There was a client that my friend was doing an instant response, and what no one thought about at this very, very large company that spent a ton of money with all the backups and imaging, they had images of all their desktops, except to get that all back. No one thought about just how much and how hard that data was to pull back. They ended up having to contact the company and have them start mailing hard drives because they couldn't bring the data in through any pipe fast enough to restore the company. So the company did not lose in terms of they didn't have to pay the ransom, but they also didn't have a way to restore very fast because they didn't have the bandwidth to pull all the data back in. So shipping hard drives was the solution. From one location to the other is physically pulling drives and getting data, copying it from there, getting it packaged, getting it over to the client. So is cool and good it is to have those online options for backup. You also have to think about the reverse. How do I get all that data back and put back in place if that need arises? So it's something to think about. I've never tried, but there probably is an alert option where if a snapshot grows too fast to raise an alarm, but that's not really the best way to do it. The better way to do it is endpoint protection, because you want to start with the endpoint, because before the ransomware hits, very, very frequently, and they've talked about this at Huntress many times, this is one of the reasons we like their product, there's a precursor. There's a ramp-up event prior to the ransomware. The ransomware is the last part, not the first part. So first they got to compromise the system. They start poking around. Popular thing is you'll see Emotet start deploying on a network. Emotet or some variation of it will start deploying. Then they'll work their way around the network to get a lay of the land before they deploy the ransomware. If you stop it at the Emotet part, you can stop the attack before it happens. I mean, granted, this is a little bit pie in the sky. You hope to stop an attack before it happens. There's no guarantee you will. Maybe they deployed an hour after they put it on there, so you didn't have enough time to react. But focusing on the endpoints is where you want your detection, not when there's a big data change. Just kind of like, that's like, there was on one of the episodes of How They Get Hacked we covered, there was a company that didn't know they were compromised until they got the bill for their bandwidth. That was when they found out. And someone said they should have set alerts ahead of time. And the reality is they thought it was just increased usage, but then the increased usage was so much and they were egressing data out of the company. The bandwidth bill for egress out of their cloud is how they found out that they had a problem. If they would have focused on endpoint protection, they wouldn't have got overbilled for the cloud. They would have stopped before all the data was exfiltrated. But it's not easy. What else do we have in here? Is there a specific need for SFTP or full metal caps on PoE? I don't think so. Jeff, Proc Moxer ESXi. XCPNG, so neither one of those. Yeah, the rootkit hunters, they're rarely putting a rootkit on your FreeBSD system, Sam. It's just not statistically where they put things. Cool that they have it, but it's not usually where that happens. Nope, I still do run, Jimbo, I do run Windows for my gaming. It's just way easier. I don't feel like dealing with Linux problems with gaming. There is like the Linux Gamer, and I think Jay, and Jay's Learn Linux TV has some videos on gaming on Linux. The problem with gaming on Linux is as long as your game works, it works fine. And a lot of games work on Linux. I think, I didn't look at the statistics lately, but something like, out of the top 20 titles, something like 3/4 of the top 20 titles do run on Linux. And all that's awesome, and it's getting better. But does the game you want to play work on Linux? And it turns out the game I wanted to play doesn't work as well on Linux. Therefore, I was running Windows. That's really what it came down to.
With Proton, everything's getting great, though.
Yeah, Proton's making things a lot better. It's definitely on its way. I'm hoping that we hit 100% and it won't matter. And I think that may be where the future is, but it's not where we are right now. Horses for courses. Any thoughts on Windows VM gaming on RAID? I don't know. I think Linus did a video on it. I wouldn't bother with it. It's one of those things, like if I'm going to build a system, why would I mean, I guess it comes down to if you want to tinker with it. I like my gaming system to be as trouble-free as possible. I'd say trouble-free, but I'm going to just say as trouble-free as possible. Because at the end of the day, if I do decide I want to play games, I don't want to play them at the expense of having a bunch of configuration and challenging things. I do complicated things all day. I don't really want to do complicated things when I get home sometimes. I just want to play a video game. XCPNG plan support parallel NFS. I don't know. That's a forum question for them. Nope, I don't play Apex Legends. Right now, the only game I'm playing at the moment is Borderlands, but I want to play The Division, but it seems too real right now. A global pandemic causing chaos. It feels a little real, so I haven't played The Division. I was going to play it, and then the world happened. Do we have any financial impact of the corona? Yes, maybe, for sure. All of the above and none of the above. It's too early to tell. We do know there's at least some companies that we're not positive they're going to recover. We don't know. If they don't recover, we're out the money they owe us, and that's definitely an impact. Or are they going to partially recover and make payments over time, which is an annoying impact because I won't have the money now. I'll have the money over time. So there's a lot of factors in it. We do know projects are canceled, so there's certainly a loss right there off the top, because if those projects are canceled, then that's money that we were expecting. We were hoping those projects would say yes. Now they're all on hold indefinitely. So yeah, there's going to be some changes. Other clients are up and running and busy because we have a lot of critical infrastructure clients we support. So they're paying their bills and they're chugging along going, this sucks, but we're working through it. So would you ditch ConnectWise Control if they start charging monthly and no longer honor your permanent license? I guess if they charge more than if they charge more than I think it's worth, then I would switch. That's all it comes down to. You answer today's questions with using reason and logic. I try. It's not easy. Me and my friend had to question our sanity. That's why sometimes me and other business owners have talks once in a while. Is their sanity checks of, hold on, I just got off the phone with someone. I don't think this sounds right at all. Okay, so at the end of the conversation, I said, so to recap our entire conversation, I'll recap it with, we're the sane ones. That's all I got to say. None of the rest of it was good. It was all just stupidity. So it is, you deal with some challenges like that, having. It's just a whole different thing. Have you found any way to do published apps with Citrix Receiver? Not really, because that's all in the Windows world. If you do publish apps in Linux, you can do it. But publishing apps in Linux means the app has to support Linux. I did a video on X2Go, and X2Go doesn't just support remote desktop, it supports remote published apps. And maybe I'll revisit that sometime. X2Go is a great project for a lot of different things, but the published apps is a really particularly cool one. But in the Windows world, if you're going to run all the Windows stuff, I think Citrix probably has still, and I don't know this subjectively, I don't think I have anyone actually using it. I know companies that use it, but they're not our clients. There are Citrix published apps for you to be able to do that. So I don't know what it's out there that compares to Citrix published apps. If I switch to ConnectWise, can know what I just do? I don't know. Yeah, we've played with the Take Control. It's just not Screen Connect. The Take Control is the Internet Explorer of the remote access tools. We use the Take Control to load Screen Connect. I don't have any Microsoft certificates, so I have no opinion on the recent Microsoft certificate changes. I lack those certs, so I don't know. Microsoft certs are confusing sometimes. I don't keep up with them. I'm not saying they're not valid. I'm not saying you don't need to have them. Matter of fact, people ask me, what certs should I get? I'm like, you should get the certs that help you get the job you want. So if I were to not run this business and I wanted a job doing something, and that something had the qualifier of a certification, despite any misgivings people may have about certifications, I will get the certification needed to have the job I want. So it comes down to, do you have a job that you want that requires you to get that certification? I've seen people, and I complained about this, the right to repair, and CompTIA was fighting it, and people said, let's protest CompTIA. And I'm like, stop before you do that. I don't think I want anyone starting out in the tech world sacrificing their job opportunity to stand on the moral high ground. That becomes a very difficult thing. I can myself say and argue with them, and if the opportunity is not to use them, awesome. But the reality is, if you are trying to get started and you want a job and that job requires it, I don't want to have you miss out an opportunity to get a tech career started, because that's obviously, you got to have some priorities. And as much as these companies are angry, don't worry, there's plenty of people fighting them. I always encourage more people to fight against these companies, but don't short your own job opportunity, because your value in the workforce, if getting into tech, would probably, over the long term, give you a greater leverage over these companies versus the short term of just protesting it. Is that too logical of an answer?
A lot of words.
It's a lot of words. Nothing simple, right?
No.
What? What's that, Kyle? Okay. I heard my staff saying something down there.
You're back. You're good.
Oh, okay. My stream quit working? Is it possible to get all the PF managed by one central system? It is possible to do with Ansible. I'm thinking about how to do that. I don't find it to be as problematic as people do. It's just, I don't know. It's neat. You can easily push the updates, but we usually just update them manually. I don't find it to be that that challenging to do when you want to do it that way. So I think people really like the dashboards. I don't know why. I use Zabbix for monitoring. Monitoring is different than the dashboard in terms of like a global PF dashboard. But I don't find that many problems. And reality is, when the internet goes down, it goes down. I mean, you can monitor that, you can watch that. Updates, there's not that many updates to pfSense. It updates every several, like 4 or 5 months go by, 3 months. And by the way, because it's all the same platform, whether I bought it or built it, it doesn't matter. It's the same version. So when there's an update for one, you roll out updates for all of them. That's as simple as that. If there's an update for an application that you run on there, like PF Blocker would be an example, then it updates not just for mine, but for everybody's. So they're not that hard to manage and log in and update. You can, like I said, Ansible is a whole other option for that, to be able to do it. I've been looking at that as kind of a simpler way to do it because you can just have Ansible commands kick off and go in and log in and do it. So there's different ways to do it. I know a couple companies offer dashboards for it, but in the same thing with the backups. You don't need to constantly back up a pfSense. You only back it up under change. So as a process, if we log in and make a firewall change, which is not even that frequently for well-established companies, they don't change things every day. Once it's configured, we download the backup. I don't need another backup. I don't need to back it up every day. I only need to back it up on change. So if you're only backing up on change, I don't need some dashboard to tell me all the backups. It's just part of the ticketing process for change firewall rule, open port, change port, update VPN, whatever change you made to pfSense. When you're all done with change, make sure change works, download backup. I usually back it up beforehand, and we just don't save that backup to our archive. But by the way, we also keep an archive of their backup. So we usually don't need to do a backup beforehand because I usually have the backup from the last time we did the change in our system. So I can always revise and restore back to that. So hopefully that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, Ansible rocks. Ansible's really cool to be able to go in, get information, push a command to all your servers. I did a couple of videos in Ansible to how to get started with it. Phil said when we get around to it, me and Phil are going to do a couple more videos because he's a rock star when it comes to building and deploying infrastructure at scale. And I mean like big scaled infrastructure. If you didn't know, Phil, who's been on his channel, you can find him in the Ansible videos. He is the site reliability engineer for the Linux Foundation's Let's Encrypt project. So I love when people tell me I'm wrong about something in Let's Encrypt, and I'm like, no, literally. And by the way, you can see this on my Let's Encrypt video. Phil answers people's questions on YouTube for Let's Encrypt. Phil is a adamant person on, the guy literally is writing and building some of the infrastructure that runs the back end of that. And that's his title. And he's got some good blog posts on it. So he's quite skilled at a lot of that. So he does he knows how to build out all the, self-deploying, self-healing, self-rebuilding type infrastructure stuff. Oh, did I put a kink in the network cable? Is that what's causing it? There was things going down. I know that it's really windy outside. I can hear the wind blowing quite a bit. Matter of fact, we can probably look outside. We got cameras and things and stuff. So let's go ahead and pull up these cameras. Oh, it's actually sunny out. So we'll switch to this view. And I see the trees blowing a little bit back here. You can see the stuff blowing down here. The Tesla's not plugged in. The Tesla's out front. There's the Tesla right there. And there's our locked up building. Anyways, I'm about to wind this down. I do have a few more things to do today. Let's see. Turn it off and back down. Power down pfSense by accident. Yeah, that could happen. The CompTIA Illuminati are after me. There's a chance of that. Why not? Oh, crap. I'll probably get demonetized for using those words. Is UniFi Protect worth it? I think UniFi Protect is a spiffy system for small use cases. So if you're doing it for a handful of cameras, which we have set up right here, we have 3. It's fine. It works. I don't know. I'm not overly impressed with it. It's not like amazing, blow my mind, awesome type thing. It's just like, It's a basic camera system. I think for a small deployment, limited, it works really well. I think for larger deployments, it's not that great. And by the way, once you decide to go UniFi, you're kind of locked in their ecosystem because nothing else works well. I say works well because someone will point out there's some hacky way to do it. Nothing else works well with the UniFi cameras except for the UniFi software. Now, Protect itself does work really well. Functionally, it's very nice. If someone said, hey, I want to put 4 cameras at my house, what do you think of the UniFi system? I'd say, yeah, I think it's a pretty good system. I think if you want something more advanced, you want redundant hard drives and a lot of other stuff, the UniFi falls flat again. It doesn't have a lot of features. For what it is, though, it's a nice system. The app is nice. It's easy to view. It's easy to go back and see events that occurred. So all those features of it are great, but that's kind of where it ends. I now give you the whole overview of my thoughts on it. As a home user, what size rack would you recommend? As big as you can get away with, because you always put more stuff in it. My alternative UniFi video is Synology. We've got several videos on the Synology video servers. So the Synologies are pretty good. They make a solid product. We've got a handful of videos on setting them up, how they work, and some reviews. So I like the Synology. They've been a pretty good performer for us. But that's the end of all this. If someone could smash that like button before I wind it down, is there any more questions for the good of the class? Any more questions, comments, concerns? Please join us over in the forums at forums.lawrencesystems.com. So let me plug our forums again because I don't plug them enough, right? I'm just trying to get people, it's funny, we got a phone call today about this too. Hey, I watch a lot of videos and I have a lot of questions. Like someone just called our office and the people at the office like, well, are you a current client? We will ask you those questions when you call. And we're like, well, if you just got questions, the forums are the place for that, or you fill out the Hire Us forums. It's pretty as much as simple as that. But if you want to have a free discussion, this is definitely the place to do it. And I've commented on this before, but these are the stats. I am visit here all the time. I have 1.2 thousand posts, 1.8 thousand viewed, and read 7.4 thousand posts on here. So yes, I do spend time in here replying to things. You can see there's not many new or unread because, well, this one probably came in that says new right here in my forums since I started this live stream, because I was actually in the forums not long before the live stream started, answering people's questions and trying to get as much on there. Now, there are people that just post silly things that sometimes I don't reply to, or I'll say, I don't know why you posted that. Or they post completely off the wall, like, hey, I need help with my... I think someone posted in here something about a product I'd never even heard of. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never used the product before. I've never talked about it on my channel. I mean, probably their forums would be the place to go. I try to reply to everyone as much as I can, but of course there comes extremes on some of that. But let's see. Can you run PoE over the small data module? I don't know what that means. Anyways, more of you, smash that like button. Oh, my favorite sticker? Ooh, that's a better question. I don't know. I like the Tradecraft Tuesday stickers. I like the Sunday Morning Linux Review stickers. I do like the Fox stickers. These are from I mentioned them in a video. I can't remember her name now. Darknet Diaries over here on this side. Darknet Diaries is awesome, so that's a good sticker. Hopefully that one's there. Oh, and also because someone, digging into what does Tom do personally. And I will mention, as usual, I have been properly, people said, do you go outside? How is it working in Michigan? I social distance. I go where people aren't. That's me out and about riding. That is what I do a lot of times offline. So I do get away from the keyboard when I leave the office. That's kind of common. I don't always sit in front of a computer. I do a lot, though. I like the Debian scroll. My curtains have a similar design on them. You got Debian curtains? That's cool. Yes, that is an old. That's a. I have a pair of them. Those are. It's actually not a 110. It's a Honda CT90. CT110 is the 12 volt one. I would love to try to find one. I've debated about buying one because I like the 12 volt power systems versus the 6 volt on there. So, yeah. Jelly beans or chocolate bunny? I don't know. Jelly beans probably. I don't. Chocolate bunnies are good, but jelly beans are better. There is a Let's Encrypt sticker on my Honda. That's the only sticker on it. I had so many Let's Encrypt stickers, I wanted to put them on everything, including my old Hondas. So, nope, I don't use Pi-hole anymore. I use PF Blocker. Well, I never did use Pi-hole. I did a video on Pi-hole, but I use PF Blocker. So, because it's integrated in PF Sent, so I don't have to run a separate thing. Pi-hole's cool. Great project if you want to play with it. That's it, though. Thank you for joining, etc., etc. I'm tired now, but I still have a lot of things to do. So thank you. Head over to the forums. You want to have a more in-depth discussion for questions I didn't get to or didn't answer in here. Post and all that fun stuff. I always download the latest Tesla firmware. I did get more updates. My car listens to me better now. So that's a thing. Yes, 6 p.m. All right, take care, everyone. Thank you and all that stuff.